Dr. Emma Jackson stood on the deck of the research vessel Odyssey, her eyes scanning the horizon. The ocean stretched out, endless and dark, beneath a sky filled with thick clouds. The air smelled salty, and the wind tugged at her hair. The research team had been out here for weeks, studying the deep-sea trenches near the coast of the small island of Solana. They were trying to unlock the mysteries of the deep, but so far their work had yielded little. The ocean was a giant puzzle, and most of the pieces were still missing. Emma wasn't just another scientist. She was the lead marine biologist of this expedition, chosen for her reputation and skill. But even she couldn't deny the sense of disappointment that had started to settle over the team. They had only gathered data that confirmed what everyone already knew. The ocean was vast, mysterious, and full of creatures that were as strange as they were beautiful. But nothing extraordinary had surfaced. That was until the sonar reading came in. "Emma, you need to see this," called Dr. Luis Hernandez, the team's head oceanographer, as he stared at the monitors in front of him. His face, usually calm and collected, was now wide-eyed with excitement. Emma stepped quickly to his side. "What is it?" "Look at this!" Luis pointed to the screen, his finger trembling slightly. "This anomaly, it's huge! We've never seen anything like it down here." On the sonar display, there was a massive shape, nearly a mile long, sitting at the bottom of the trench. It was no natural formation, that was clear. The sharp angles and strange curves made it stand out from everything else. It looked like a ship. Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Is it a ship?" Luis didn't answer right away, his fingers tapping away at the controls. "It's definitely not from Earth. The material is unlike anything we've ever recorded in our surveys." The team fell, silent as the realization hit them. They had just found something that would change everything. This wasn't just another sea creature or a shipwreck from human history. No, this was something far more mysterious. "Can you get us closer to it?" Emma asked, her voice steady despite the rush of excitement in her chest. Luis nodded. Already adjusting the coordinates. We'll need to deploy the submersibles to get a better look. This isn't something we can just study from the surface." "Do it," Emma said, her voice firm. She was determined to see this through, no matter how bizarre or dangerous it might be. The submersibles were lowered into the water with precision. The crew inside each one was a mix of scientists, engineers, and technicians, all eager to witness what was lying hidden beneath the waves. Emma was in the command submersible, the most advanced of them all, with Luis at her side. They descended, deeper into the ocean, the pressure building as they moved further from the surface. The water turned darker, and the beams of their lights only reached a few feet ahead of them. As they neared the object, the lights from the submersible illuminated the strange ship. It was much larger than they had imagined from the sonar readings. Its shape was sleek and almost organic in design, with smooth curves and sections that seemed to shift, as if the ship itself was alive. It was covered in layers of coral and barnacles, a clear sign that it had been there for a long time. But despite the years it had spent underwater, it didn't appear to have decayed. In fact, it looked preserved. Emma leaned closer to the monitor, studying every detail. The ship was made of a material that didn't resemble anything human-made. It shimmered in the light, almost metallic, but with an unusual sheen that reminded her of living tissue. There were no visible signs of doors or windows. The ship seemed to be sealed, its surface smooth and impenetrable. "What are we looking at, Emma?" Luis asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know," Emma replied, her voice tight with awe. "But whatever it is, it's not from Earth." They slowly circled the ship, examining it from every angle. The submersible's lights highlighted strange markings along the sides, symbols that looked like no language Emma had ever seen. The shapes were flowing and abstract, and the symbols didn't seem to follow any pattern that could be easily deciphered. "Should we try to enter it?" Luis asked, his face reflecting the same mixture of excitement and uncertainty that Emma felt. Emma paused. She knew how dangerous it could be to tamper with unknown technology, especially something this alien, but the scientist in her couldn't resist the urge to explore. "Yes," she said, her voice resolute. "We need to get inside. We have to understand what this is." The submersible moved closer to the ship, and they began searching for an entry point. It was then that Emma noticed something strange. There was a small section of the hull that seemed off. A slight indentation, barely noticeable to the naked eye, but it was there. It was as if the ship had been built with a way for outsiders to enter, but only those who knew what to look for would find it. "Look at this," Emma said, pointing to the indent. "It might be a hatch." Luis nodded. "I see it. Let's see if we can open it." The submersible's robotic arm reached out and gently touched the area, carefully applying pressure. With a soft hiss, the section of the ship shifted, revealing a small opening. The team gasped. They were about to enter a ship that had been hidden at the bottom of the ocean for centuries, maybe even millennia. "Are you ready?" Luis asked, his voice full of wonder. Emma nodded, her heart racing. "Let's do this." The submersible moved inside the ship, the light from the submersible's lamps casting eerie shadows on the walls of the alien vessel. The air was thick with tension. Emma could feel it in the pit of her stomach. This wasn't just an ancient ship. This was a discovery that would change the course of human history. They floated through the narrow corridors of the ship, the walls smooth and metallic. It was eerily silent, save for the hum of the submersible. The ship appeared to be dormant with no signs of life, but there was something about the way it felt, something that made Emma uneasy. Then, as they moved deeper into the ship, they saw it. In the distance, a faint glow lit up the corridor. It wasn't from any of their equipment. It was coming from the interior of the ship itself. "Do you see that?" Luis asked, his voice barely audible. "I see it," Emma replied, her voice tense. "Let's go check it out." The submersible moved towards the light, and as they approached, they realized the glow was coming from what appeared to be a large chamber. The walls of the chamber were lined with strange, glowing symbols. Symbols that pulsed with an eerie light, like they were alive. They had found something extraordinary, something that would change everything. But they had no idea what it meant or what they would uncover next. The crew aboard Odyssey had never been more focused. Tension hung in the air as they prepared to delve deeper into the alien ship. Dr. Emma Jackson stood at the helm, staring at the glowing readouts and adjusting the submersible's controls. Her thoughts were racing. The strange ship they had found beneath the ocean was more than just an underwater wreck. It was an enigma. An alien enigma, and Emma was determined to unlock its secrets. Luis Hernandez, the team's lead oceanographer, stood. Beside her, his eyes glued to the screens. "This is incredible," he murmured, almost to himself. "We're about to enter an alien ship that's been down here for hundreds, maybe thousands of years." Emma glanced over at him. "I know. I've been doing this for years, but this is something else." The rest of the team was busy prepping the submersibles for the descent into the heart of the ship. This was not just a research mission anymore. This was humanity's first real contact with something from the stars. As the submersible descended further, the deep ocean closed in around them. The temperature outside was freezing, the pressure enormous. The lights from the submersible cut through the darkness, but the shadows from the ship stretched far and wide, creating an eerie atmosphere. It took hours to reach the heart of the ship, but Emma couldn't help but feel an increasing sense of excitement mixed with a hint of fear. The deeper they went, the more it felt like they were entering another world, a world where humans had never set foot before. "We're getting close," Luis said, his voice steady, but Emma could hear the excitement in his words. I can almost feel the history of this place. Imagine what we're about to uncover. Emma nodded, but her mind was clouded with questions. Who had built this ship? Why was it here, at the bottom of the ocean? And most importantly, what had happened to the beings who had left it behind? The submersible's thrusters hummed quietly as it slid along the hull of the alien ship. The glowing symbols that covered the ship's exterior pulsed faintly, like living creatures beneath the metal skin. It was as if the ship was breathing. Luis manipulated the controls and the submersible docked near the open hatch they had discovered earlier. The small opening into the ship now beckoned them, its promise of answers impossible to resist. It felt like they were on the verge of discovering something that could change humanity forever. The team had decided that Emma and Luis would be the ones to lead the exploration. The rest of the crew would remain at the surface to monitor the operation and provide backup if anything went wrong. Ready? Luis asked, glancing at Emma. Emma took a deep breath. Let's go. With careful precision, the submersible's robotic arms extended toward the opening. The ship seemed to respond, the walls around the hatch shifting as if it were alive, welcoming them inside. The submersible eased its way into the dark, narrow corridor of the alien vessel. Inside, the air was thick and heavy, unlike anything Emma had ever experienced. There was no smell, at least not one that could be identified. The walls were smooth and metallic, with faint traces of glowing patterns that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at them. It was as if the ship's very design was alive, responding to their presence. This is unlike anything we've seen, Luis whispered, his voice reverberating in the small chamber. I've never seen technology like this. It feels organic. Emma nodded. It's almost like the ship itself is part of the creature that built it. As they moved deeper into the ship, the passageways seemed to stretch and twist. There were no sharp turns or right angles. Everything was curved, as if the ship had been designed to flow seamlessly with the environment, a truly alien design. The silence inside the ship was deafening. The only sound was the soft hum of the submersibles, systems, and their own breathing. Emma felt a strange unease growing inside her, the feeling that they were being watched, though there was no one to see. The submersible moved cautiously forward. Emma's eyes were constantly scanning the walls, trying to make sense of the strange symbols that lined the corridors. Some of the symbols looked familiar, but there was no logical pattern to them. They were clearly not anything she had ever seen before. Luis pointed to a large chamber ahead. I think we've found the main area. We should go inside and investigate. The submersible approached a massive opening. The light from their craft revealed a huge chamber, the size of a small football field. It was filled with strange technology. Some of it looked like machines, while other parts resembled sculptures, almost organic in nature. There were also what appeared to be beds or resting pods, but they were unlike anything the team had ever seen. As the submersible moved closer to the center of the chamber, they noticed something even more extraordinary. In the middle of the room stood a large, translucent cylinder about 10 feet tall. It was glowing softly, the light coming from deep within the structure. Luis looked at Emma. What do you think this is? Emma's eyes widened. It looks like a cryogenic pod, but unlike any human technology. It's almost alive. Look at how it pulses. Without a word, Luis guided the submersible closer, and they examined the pod. The surface was smooth and transparent, and inside they could just make out the shape of a figure. It was humanoid, but it was unlike any human being. The figure's skin shimmered with a faint, ethereal glow, and its limbs were slender, its face partially obscured by the pod's surface. This can't be real, Luis whispered. We found an alien life form. Emma stared at the figure in shock. But how? Why is it here? She had so many questions. This wasn't just an abandoned ship. This was a vessel that had been in operation, carrying something, someone who had been preserved, waiting perhaps to be revived. "We need to open it," Emma said, her voice steady with determination. "We have to know who or what is inside." Luis hesitated. "Are you sure? We don't know what we're dealing with here." "I know," Emma replied. "But this is why we're here. We're not just here to observe. We need to understand. If we leave now without answers, we may never get another chance." The submersible's robotic arm extended toward the pod. With a slow, deliberate movement, it made contact with the surface, and after a series of hissing sounds, the pod began to open. It was as if the ship itself was waking up, reacting to their presence. Inside, the figure began to stir. Emma and Luis watched in awe as the figure slowly sat up, its movements graceful, fluid, like a creature that had been in slumber for eons. The pod's opening mechanism hummed as it revealed more of the alien being. It was alive. Emma felt her heart race. The alien's eyes opened, glowing faintly. They were unlike any human eyes, vast, deep, and full of wisdom. And yet, there was something else. Something that made Emma's skin crawl with an unexplainable mix of awe and fear. The being blinked, its gaze settling on the two humans inside the submersible. It didn't speak, but there was no need for words. Emma and Luis could feel it. The being was aware of them, aware of their presence. It was as if this alien had been waiting for them. And the moment they made contact, everything changed. The alien sat up slowly in the pod, its movements fluid and graceful. Its eyes, large and luminescent, locked onto Emma and Luis. There was no mistaking it now. This was an intelligent being, one that had been asleep for centuries, maybe even millennia. The air inside the ship felt heavy, charged with anticipation. Emma's heart raced in her chest, her breath catching in her throat. It was hard to take in what she was seeing. Every part of her body screamed to make sense of the situation, but her mind struggled to keep up. She had always believed that there was life beyond Earth, but standing before her, inside an alien ship at the bottom of the ocean, was proof beyond anything she could have imagined. The alien blinked again, its long, delicate eyelashes fluttering, like a curtain caught in the wind. Its skin shimmered in the dim light, a pale blue hue that seemed to shift and change depending on the angle of the light. There was an almost otherworldly glow to it, as if it was radiating energy from within. Luis looked at Emma, his face pale with awe. This can't be real," he whispered. "We're standing in front of a living, breathing alien being." Emma could barely form words. Her mind was spinning with questions. What was this alien doing here? Why had it been in suspended animation for so long? And most importantly, why was it waking up now? The alien moved its head slightly, its gaze, never leaving the two scientists. Its eyes were intelligent, piercing, as though it was studying them just as much as they were studying it. It wasn't speaking, but there was an unmistakable sense of communication in the air, a kind of silent understanding. It was as if the alien knew who they were, what they had come for, and what would happen next. Emma finally found her voice, though it was shaky. Who are you?" she asked, the words coming out more softly than she intended. The alien tilted its head, its expression unreadable. There was no sound, but Emma felt a strange pressure inside her mind, a gentle pulse that seemed to resonate in the depths of her thoughts. She blinked in surprise. It was like the alien was communicating directly with her, without speaking a word. "We are the Haran," a voice echoed inside her mind. It was deep, resonant, and unlike anything she had ever heard. The voice was not heard through her ears, but inside her mind, as if the words were being shaped and placed there directly. "The Haran," Emma whispered to herself. the alien name ringing in her mind. It sounded ancient, foreign, and yet somehow familiar. The alien's gaze softened as if it understood her confusion. The voice continued, not in words, but in impressions, a flood of images and feelings that washed over Emma like a wave. We come from a distant world, far beyond your stars. Our mission was to watch and learn, to observe, to ensure the balance of life across the galaxy. But we failed. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to ask more questions, to demand answers, but before she could speak, the alien's thoughts came again. My people, we were not alone. There are others who do not share our peaceful ways. We were a small force, alone against an endless tide of conflict. I was sent here to sleep, to wait for the time when my race would need to return. But I did not expect to sleep so long. Luis, who had been standing frozen in awe, finally found his voice. What do you mean you failed? What happened to your people? The alien turned its head slightly as if pondering the question before responding. We lost the war. Our enemies were too strong, too many. We had to scatter, to hide, to sleep. My mission was to protect one of the last safe worlds, your world, Earth. But we failed in our time. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. The alien had just confirmed something she had long suspected. Earth was more important than they had ever realized. They had only begun to understand the potential of their planet, but now it seemed that humanity was caught in a much bigger conflict, one that spanned the stars. You were never meant to know of us, the alien continued, but the time is now. Your people have reached the point where you are no longer safe. The war I fought is not over, and you, humans, are caught in the middle. Emma's mind was racing. A war? A galactic war that involved Earth? She couldn't comprehend it all at once, but she knew one thing for certain. Everything was about to change. Her entire life's work had just collided with something far beyond anything she could have imagined. Why didn't you wake up sooner? Luis asked, his voice trembling. Why were you asleep for so long? The alien's eyes flickered, and Emma could sense a wave of sadness coming from it. The technology that kept me alive was not perfect. It could not predict how long the war would last, nor when I would be needed again. But now you are ready. Emma's mind spun as the implications of the alien's words sank in. What do you mean? Ready for what? Ready to fight, ready to face the coming storm. The alien's words echoed in her mind like a warning bell. Emma knew that humanity had made huge strides in space exploration and technology, but they were nowhere near prepared for what lay ahead. Whatever war this alien spoke of, whatever enemies had destroyed the Haran, they would not be merciful. Luis stepped forward, his face pale. How can we help? We're just humans. How do we even begin to fight something like that? The alien's gaze softened, and a sense of calm filled the room. You are not as weak as you believe. Your potential is far greater than you realize. That is why I was sent. My people were the first to see the potential in your species. You are more than capable of helping. But first, you must learn what we know. The alien's body began to glow, brighter, its skin pulsating with light. The soft hum of the ship's systems seemed to rise in pitch, matching the energy emanating from the creature. Emma and Luis exchanged a glance, both understanding that the situation was spiraling into something far more dangerous than either of them had ever imagined. We will teach you, the alien continued. You must be ready. The enemies we face are not like the ones you know. They are ancient, powerful, and ruthless. But you have something they do not. Unity. Strength in numbers. If you stand together, you will have a chance. The room grew quiet, the alien's voice fading away. Emma and Luis stood motionless, their minds processing the enormity of what they had just learned. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice steady but full of awe. "So, what do we do now?" The alien's glowing eyes met hers. "Now, you prepare." The ship was silent now, except for the soft hum of the submersible's systems. Emma's mind was racing, the weight of the alien's words pressing down on her. It was hard to wrap her head around what they had just learned. A galactic war. Enemies that Earth had never even imagined. And now, the responsibility of defending the planet might rest on the shoulders of humanity. But despite the fear gnawing at her, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose. This was why they had found the ship. This was why the alien had been waiting in suspended animation at the bottom of the ocean, for humanity to be ready. And now, it was time to learn. The alien, still glowing faintly in the dim light of the submersible, shifted slightly in the pod. Its eyes locked onto Emma's once more, and she could feel the weight of its gaze in her very bones. "I know you have many questions," the alien's voice echoed in her mind, deep and resonant. "But now is the time to understand." Emma nodded slowly, still processing everything. "How do we even begin to prepare? We don't know anything about this war or who our enemies are." The alien's expression softened, and Emma felt a strange sense of calm flood her thoughts. "You will learn," it said. "I will teach you what we know, but you must be ready to listen, to act, and to accept what is to come. You must know the truth of your people's potential." Luis, who had been standing silent by the controls, stepped forward, his voice hesitant. "What do we need to do? How can we fight something we don't even understand?" The alien's eyes glowed brighter, its shape becoming clearer as the soft light filled the chamber. "You are not without strength," it said, its voice full of quiet assurance. "It is not just your technology or your weapons that will help you in the war. It is your unity, your resourcefulness, and your ability to adapt. That will be your greatest weapons." Emma's thoughts raced. But how can we fight enemies who have wiped out entire civilizations? How can we stand against them? The alien's gaze deepened. "You have something they do not. You have the power of connection, of empathy, of working together. These qualities make you strong, but you must be prepared to face the unknown. You must be willing to sacrifice, to fight for what is right." Emma felt the weight of the alien's words. She had always believed in the power of humanity, how their ability to work together, to overcome obstacles, was what made them unique in the universe. But now that strength would be tested in ways she never imagined. The submersible's lights flickered as the alien spoke again. "I will show you the knowledge of my people, the technology that can help you defend your world." The ship hummed, and the walls around them began to shift. The ship's interior seemed to come alive, its smooth surfaces glowing brighter as if responding to the alien's call. Suddenly, a large panel slid open in front of them, revealing a console of alien technology. It was unlike anything Emma had ever seen. The symbols that covered the surface seemed to move, shifting and changing in patterns that were both beautiful and confusing. Luis gasped. This is technology we can barely understand." The alien's voice filled their minds again. "You will learn. But first, you must open your minds to the knowledge. You must trust that what we teach you will help you in the fight ahead." Emma took a deep breath. There was no turning back now. If humanity was to have any chance of surviving, the war the alien spoke of, they needed to understand this technology. They needed to learn. She turned to Luis. "We need to access this. It's the only way." Luis nodded slowly, his face full of uncertainty, but also determination. "Let's do it." The submersible's robotic arm extended toward the alien console, carefully touching the surface. The moment it made contact, a wave of energy seemed to ripple through the ship. The symbols on the console began to glow, and a holographic display flickered to life before them. The display was filled with maps, star systems, and data that seemed incomprehensible. The alien had unlocked something, knowledge that had been waiting for centuries. Emma could feel her pulse quicken as the display shifted to show an image of the galaxy, dotted with stars and planets. It looked familiar, but the details were unfamiliar and strange. The alien's voice once more filled their minds. These are the regions where my people once lived. These are the systems that were destroyed by the war. The enemy, known as the Jakar, are a relentless force. They do not know mercy. Their technology is advanced, and their fleet is vast. They seek to conquer and destroy, to wipe out all who do not bend to their will. Emma's breath caught in her throat as the image shifted again, showing vast fleets of ships, warships unlike anything she had ever seen. The Jakar were terrifying in their appearance, dark, jagged, and menacing. The ships themselves seemed alive, as though they were crafted from living material, their hulls pulsating with energy. These ships are the enemy's weapons, the alien explained, but their strength lies not just in their firepower, but in their ability to corrupt, to break the will of their enemies. Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. These enemies were not just physical threats, they were psychological ones too. The Jakar didn't just conquer worlds, they crushed the spirit of those they fought. It was a fearsome thought. The display continued, showing different star systems that had fallen to the Jakar. Entire civilizations had been wiped out, their planets left in ruins. Emma couldn't help but feel a wave of sorrow for all the lost lives. Luis stepped forward, his face set with determination. How can we stop them? How can we fight an enemy like this? The alien's glowing eyes met his. You must become strong, as my people once were. You must learn to use the technology of the Haran. This ship, and others like it, carry weapons and knowledge that you can harness to defend your world. Emma's mind raced as the display shifted again. It showed weapons, advanced, powerful energy weapons that seemed almost too advanced to be real. They were weapons that could cut through the toughest shields, destroy entire fleets, and shift the tide of battle. This is what we must teach you, the alien continued. But this is not all. You must learn how to communicate with the other civilizations in the galaxy. You must unite the species who still stand against the Jakar. Only then will you have a chance. Emma's head spun. The responsibility that had been thrust upon her, upon humanity, felt overwhelming. How could they possibly stand up against a force as powerful and relentless as the Jakar? But then, as the alien's words sank in, Emma realized something. They had a chance. This was their opportunity to fight back. They could stand together, unite with others, and learn the power they needed. It wasn't just a matter of surviving. It was about fighting for the future of their world. We'll do it, Emma said, her voice steady now, full of determination. We'll learn. We'll fight. We won't let Earth fall. Luis nodded. We're in this, together. All of us. The alien's glowing eyes softened, and it nodded slowly. You have made the right choice. Now, the training begins, and with that, the journey to save humanity had begun. The ship hummed once more, and Emma could feel the alien's knowledge flowing into her like a river of ancient wisdom. The war was coming, and humanity had no choice but to be ready. The hum of the ship filled the air, and Emma stood in front of the alien console, staring at the holographic images of the galaxy. She felt a mixture of fear and awe. The knowledge the alien had shared with them was overwhelming. Their world, Earth, was at the center of a galactic conflict they had never even known existed. The enemy, the Jakar, were ruthless, and their reach was vast. But as the alien had said, Humanity had something the Jacquard did not: unity. Emma was determined to take that strength and turn it into something that could fight back against the coming storm. The submersible floated silently in the alien ship, and Luis was at her side, watching the data unfold. His eyes were full of concern. "We have the knowledge, the weapons, but do we have enough time? How long do we have before the Jacquard arrive?" Emma didn't have an answer. All she knew was that the war was coming. The alien had warned them that Earth was a prime target. If humanity didn't act soon, they could be destroyed before they even had a chance to fight. The alien, still glowing faintly, stood nearby, watching the two humans. It hadn't spoken for a while, but now it did. "The Jacquard will not wait long. They are already on their way. You must act quickly." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of its words. "We need to prepare, but how do we even begin? Our technology is nowhere near what the Jacquard have. How can we defend ourselves?" The alien's eyes shone brighter. "You will learn to use our technology. This ship, and the others like it, contain advanced weapons and defense systems. But more importantly, you must unite the galaxy's remaining civilizations. You cannot win this fight alone." Emma glanced at the holographic map of the galaxy. There were star systems marked with red dots, the remnants of civilizations destroyed by the Jacquard. The alien had shown them images of the warships, their deadly weapons, and the carnage they left in their wake. Luis stepped forward. "The alien's right. If we want to survive, we need help. But how do we find these other civilizations? How do we convince them to fight alongside us?" The alien's voice was calm, its presence steady. "The galaxy is vast. Many races are scattered, hiding from the Jacquard. But they will listen. They have felt the weight of this war just as you have. It is only a matter of time before they unite." Emma felt a surge of determination. It wouldn't be easy. Convincing other civilizations to fight alongside humanity was going to take more than just the promise of survival. They would need allies, and they would need trust. But it was their only chance. "We can do this," Emma said firmly. "We'll find them. We'll unite the galaxy." Luis nodded, his expression more confident. "It's the only option we have. We'll fight for Earth. We'll fight for everyone." The alien's eyes glowed with approval. "Good, but remember, the Jacquard are not to be underestimated. They will stop at nothing to crush any opposition. You must be ready for what lies ahead." Emma glanced at the console again, her mind racing. There was so much to do. They needed to return to Earth and gather a fleet. They needed to prepare humanity for the war to come. And they needed to find the other civilizations. But most of all, they needed to unite their species. If they couldn't come together, they would stand no chance against the Jacquard. "We're going to need help," Emma said, turning to the alien. "Can you help us contact the other races? You have the knowledge. You've seen the galaxy. You know where they are." The alien paused for a moment, its eyes deep and wise. "I can guide you. I can help you find the paths to these civilizations. But the journey is yours to make. You must prove that you are worthy of their trust." Emma nodded. She understood. They couldn't just rely on the alien to do everything for them. They had to show the galaxy that Earth was ready to fight, that humanity was ready to join the galactic struggle. "We'll prove ourselves," Emma said with determination. "We'll unite the galaxy, one step at a time." Luis stepped beside her, his voice steady. "It's going to be tough. We don't know what we're up against, but if we can survive this, Earth will be stronger than ever." The alien gave a slow nod, its eyes glowing faintly. "Yes, but you must act quickly. The Jacquard will not wait. You must be ready." Emma turned to the console, where the star systems continued to shift and change. The paths to other civilizations were there, waiting for them to take the first step. But they were far, scattered across the galaxy, and the journey to reach them would be long and difficult. She knew it wouldn't be easy. But there was no other choice. "We'll go back to Earth," Emma said. We'll gather the resources we need, build a fleet, and start reaching out to the other civilizations. It won't be easy, but we have to try." Luis nodded. "We'll do whatever it takes." The alien's voice filled their minds once more, calm and certain. "I will stay here and help you. I will assist in guiding you to the first of the civilizations. But remember, the path you choose will not be easy. The Jakar will follow your every move." Emma turned to Luis, her resolve firm. "Then we move quickly. We don't have time to waste." The submersible slowly began to rise, taking them back to the surface, back to Earth. The weight of their task lay heavy on Emma's shoulders, but she was determined. Humanity had always been a species that fought for its survival, and now they were fighting for more than that. They were fighting for the future of the galaxy. As they broke through the surface of the ocean and into the bright daylight, Emma could see the distant horizon. It was a new beginning, one that would require everything humanity had to offer, but she knew they could do it. They had to.